and create. Let me go and look for Facebook group. Don't even know where to go. All these live people. Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me okay. My gosh, I'm seeing so many familiar names. Thank you so much for joining us. So happy to see you all. Can you just send through where you're dialing from in the comment box on your favorite emoji? I was actually in a meeting yesterday, and somebody said, "Put your favorite emoji in the chat box." And then somebody else said, "I don't have a favorite emoji." And they said, "Okay, can't you borrow or pay for one?" So if you don't have a favorite emoji, please borrow one and put in the chat box. Tell us where you're dialing from. Whether you're in Nigeria, in the US, wherever you are, just let's welcome you formally. But thank you so much for joining, and welcome again. My name is Napa, and I am the crew leader at Shuzaya. For those of you that are meeting Shazaya for the first time, it is a platform for Christian creatives. Writers, musicians, ministers can share their content online for free. We have a testimony app. It's called I Testify. It's on the iOS store and also on the Play Store. We have also an online evangelism platform called Get Jesus, where people can come give their lives to Christ online and then be discipled afterwards by one of our volunteers or mentors. So you can connect with the Shazaya universe from very different points of view. We also have our monthly Shazaya magazine. I don't know if you have seen it before, but if you haven't, please go to our website and check it out. It is amazing. And our monthly Shazaya magazine is produced by a group called Shazaya Writers. You're going to be able to connect with Shazaya Writers during on our Facebook group, or you can connect with Shazaya Writers on our WhatsApp group. It's a very engaging platform. In fact, today we had an amazing challenge that I'll share with you. We asked some of our writers to do ad copy on a picture, and the responses were amazing. So please connect with us. And it's very easy. Once you DM us on our social media platforms, you can start a conversation. We love hearing from our community, or our Shuzians, as we call them. And our handle is at MyShuzai on all media platforms. So without further ado, I would like to introduce the man of the hour, Oluwatobi Adesoya, who is a writer and author of more than a dozen titles. Among his recent titles are Quantum Leap, From Struggling Writer to Serial Author, and Get Dressed. He's actually been a very active part of Shazaya for many years. So if you go to the website and shazaya.com and you search for his name, you see some posts. I still remember one of his articles, "Don't Walk in Front of a Moving Train." And it's something I still refer to today. So he is an amazing, amazing writer. He's dedicated the past 4 years to helping individuals accomplish their dreams of becoming authors by providing premium ghostwriting and publishing services through his publishing company, Heart to World Publishing. And he recently got certified by Center of Excellence in the UK to practice as a journal therapy coach. Through this, he helps people find clarity for their life's journey, building intimacy in their relationships, and ultimately become a better version of themselves, all through therapeutic journaling. And that's really the reason we're here today, seeing writing not only as a form of expression, but as a form of therapy. So in this session, he's going to share a very high level view because he's told me before this takes almost a week. So I hope he's also going to tell us how we can connect and sign up for a full week to be able to experience therapy through writing. He's only going to be speaking for about 40 minutes, and then we'll go into Q&A. So if you have questions throughout the session, just drop them in the comment box, in the chat box, and then we will have a full 15 minutes to address them. So looking forward to you guys having an amazing time. And Oluwatobi, it's my pleasure. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Good to be here.
Hey, I love how you're looking. The background, the top, I feel so old. I black and black.
Yeah, good evening, Ma, and good evening, everybody. It feels so good to be on Shazaya today. I've been a very strong supporter and follower of the Shazaya vision for say about 5 years now, or even much more, since 2016. And so it just feels so good to be able to share my little knowledge and experience to help people live better lives ultimately, and to experience much more fulfillment in their relationships. So I believe you all can hear me clearly, and so I'll just go right in. So please, could you get my slides up? um it's amazing to have this session today, and like has been said, I have just very few minutes to to take us on this journey. Now, typically, I often teach and train and help people on this journey for like a whole week. And that includes teaching directly, one-on-one mentorship, and a lot of products I get to give to people to, be able to experience more fulfillment basically in their relationships, right? And in this course today, I'll take you on a journey on how to use therapeutic writing to find healing from all kinds of emotional pain, abuse, trauma, or heartbreaks. So I won't bother introducing myself too much again because Mrs. Napa has done justice to that. My name is Oluwatobe, so I'm a writer, journal therapist. So let me just skip through all of this and dive right in. So my outline today, I'll just share a bit about my journey, what therapy is, what journaling is, how does it work, and how can it work for you, and also the mental cycle and how to process events of life correctly, and journaling techniques that you can start using from today. So let me start by saying that we were all born innocent, right? Cute and adorable. As you can see the baby in the picture, we're all born crying and we were looking adorable. Everybody wanted to carry us, everybody wanted to just show us some love, give us gifts, give us money, give us all the best things of life. Our parents were always there. Because for most people, parents were there to help us, to teach us, to mentor us, and to give us the best education, the best clothes. Right at the point, right, we all had a good life, right? Everybody had some measure of a good life. We were all born innocent, cute, and adorable. Our lives were perfect at birth, right? We had a mind that was free of bias. We didn't have a religion in that, and we didn't even have bias. We didn't have doubt. We didn't have anxiety. We didn't have all of these fears. We didn't even have heartbreaks. We didn't even have anybody that was going to, make us feel bad for whatever reason, right? Life was perfect, right? Until something happened. Something happened, right? For each person, something interrupts our journey. Some trauma, some event, some loss, somebody did something, someone said something to you when you were growing up. All of these things began to condition our minds. I'm of the belief that um, everything that we go through in life, everything that we see, everything that we hear, everything that we experience leaves an indelible mark on our mind and on our hearts, right? It conditions us to behave or to think in a certain way, right? So I said we were all born cute. Now you were born cute. You were born innocent. You were born free of bias, free of heartbreaks, free of trauma, free of all of these kind of things. Probably you were born into a family or into a country where things were happening, and all of those things began to, in a way, interrupt your normal flow of life, your normal flow of thinking. So something happened, and that something refers to events, refers to traumatic events, refers to, somebody said something to you, something altered the flow of your thinking, the flow of your life. And that became, something that affected your life, to where you are today. I'm giving this as a foundational thought so that I can go into what I'm going to teach about. Now, just take, for example, a young boy is going to get something, say, at the bus stop, and along the way, he steps on the nail, and the nail gets to, injure him a lot, and it doesn't stop to look at what injured him, and he keeps on going to where he's going to. Now, you may be like, wow, this guy is brave. Wow, his leg has hit the nail and everything, and he's still going to where he's going. He must be a very strong man. Wow, how come he's not stopping to check the bleeding? And that's how most people are living their lives, right? Yes, they are going somewhere. They want to become a very high level career, whatever in their field. They want to become a very successful, businesswoman or businessman. But along the way, they've stepped on something, they have hit something. But rather than sitting down to treat the situation, they keep on carrying the trauma, carrying the hurt, carrying the pain all through life. And because of that, just like that boy, as he keeps on going like that, the blood stains will be going with him everywhere, staining everything that he steps upon. And that's why therapy is very, very important. It helps you to close the wounds, right? So that you can be able to go where you are going. So what is journal therapy anyway? Journal therapy is a therapy, right? You focusing on the writer's internal experiences, thoughts, and feelings. Those things are very important. Your internal experiences, your thoughts, and your feelings. Your internal experiences, your thoughts, and your feelings. So most people, right, in the international world thereabout, right, most people embrace therapy. They pay a lot for therapists to see. They sit down with therapists to interrogate them, to talk with them, to share it, to just unbundle what is in their mind. But in Africa, we are just slowly embracing the importance of mental health, and that's why most people don't even see that as important. So, and this is where journal therapy comes in, because in this case, you will be your own therapist. If you're not open or able to afford the therapist, as it were, professionally, you can actually develop certain skills that will help you to resolve some of your hurt, some of your emotional issues, right, with journal therapy. So that's why we have in this class. So what happens when you journal? I'll be teaching some things later on, but let's just go through all of this. What happens when you journal by yourself? The first thing that happens to you is self-awareness. You come to a point where it seems as if time stops, where your soul, your body, and your mind comes into alignment. When we have in science, there's something called the eclipse of the sun and all of those things. When the sun and the moon and the earth come into the same path, everything just goes dark. And everybody's like, wow, everywhere now seems kind of dark and all of that. But it's a phenomenon whenever there's an eclipse, because the sun and the moon and the earth, they come into the same alignment in the solar system. So the same thing as well too. And whenever there is that eclipse like that, everybody in the world is looking, everybody is held at attention. Everybody doesn't want that season to leave, because it's a very, very, in a way, miraculous moment. In the same way, whenever you are journaling, whenever you bring yourself into that state, right, you come into this about awareness of what is going on in your heart, of what has transpired inside of you or around you that has affected you so much. So journal therapy helps you to come to a place of self-awareness, where it seems as if everything about you just suddenly stops and you just want to just pour out your heart. There are times where you would probably even be crying with yourself as you are trying to bring out all of those hidden emotions, on paper. Either you're typing on your system or probably you're writing in a physical journal. There's a way it brings you out. Yourself comes out, your real self, because you can't pretend to yourself. You can pretend to even your therapist, but you can't pretend to yourself. Number two thing that happens when you journal is that you begin to reflect on life. Someone said that whenever you reflect, you turn experience into insight. So if you had been through a relationship that had probably broken your heart and all of that, you will begin to reflect, and why did this happen? Why do I feel the way I feel? Right? When you begin to use these questions as triggers, you begin to bring out emotions, begin to bring out clarity, you begin to gain clarity about what actually happened. So then you're not moving to understanding. You're like, okay, this is why. So for instance, now I give an example of the boy that was walking from point A to point B and he stepped on a nail. So if that boy says, wow, why did I step on the nail? What happened to me? Maybe it was lost in thought. Maybe it was not looking where it was going. Maybe it was probably just distracted by something. It begins to reflect upon why that happened. And you're like, okay, I think why this thing happened was because I did not wear a strong slippers, or probably I did not pay attention to where I was going. He understands himself. You come to a place where you understand yourself. Then you not make a decision. Now, most people don't go through all of this. They just go through life like that. They just assume that everything will be good because, whatever they pray or because whatever happens, right? But there's a place where your mind has to go through some level of processing. And I'm still going to the place of how to deal with the trauma and deal with the hurt. And this is the system, right? So when you begin to journal and all of that, you begin to understand why certain things happen, why that particular incident happened to you. Then you not make a decision, a quality decision, right, to make a change, to literally move from where you are to where you should be. That's the way it works. Then you now definitely take responsibility. Most people don't get to this point of responsibility. They blame their ex, they blame their parents, they blame themselves for what happened to them. They blame even the country, they blame the president for why they are going through trauma or going through whatever they're going through. And as long as you give the responsibility of your transformation to somebody else, you would remain in a state of depression. Again, as long as you give the responsibility of your transformation to somebody else, you remain in the state of depression, in your current state of, of just being underdeveloped. If I could use that word. Now, so whenever you go through these 5 systems, or as you journal, you go through these 5 systems, right? The result is one thing. It's change. It's transformation. It's a new mindset. I often like to share my story about, one of my stories basically about my previous relationship before I got into the one that led me into marriage and all of that. So this person that I was dating, all of that, she was an amazing person, and I was so giving to her. I wanted to give her my world, give her everything. And I was literally doing that. I was giving and giving and giving, giving my heart, my resources, my time, my emotions, everything, just to see that it worked. But there was no reciprocity from my own end, right? And I felt like, no, well, maybe when I get married, so everything will change. But for some reason, that relationship had to end, and thank God it ended because I was held, I was going blindly, I was wounded, like I was already drained emotionally, I was drained physically, I was drained in every way possible. But I did not stop to consider that this was not how it's supposed to be. I felt like love means that you must die because Jesus Christ died. But that's not how love works, right? So when that ended about 6 months, I was like, I was so angry. I was like, why did it happen? I love this person so much. But one day I was like, let me just even sit down. And I just sat down with myself and I opened my note and I began to just write. As I started to write, I started to write. And I wrote about 2 full pages and I was like, wow, this is wisdom. So my experience turned into wisdom for me. I was like, wow, Totobi, if you had gone ahead blindly and said you will force yourself to make this happen, you will just end up in a life that is completely frustrated. Now she was a good person. I was a good. Of course, I'm a good person. Well, I believe I am. To a very good extent. But my life would not have evolved the way it's supposed to evolve because I would have been continuously drained. And I'm sure you can relate with what I'm saying to you today because most people are in situations where they ought not to even be, but they see the red flags, but they just choose to ignore the red flags because they feel like, don't worry, the red will become green. They assume that the red flag will turn green by whatever miracle. Meanwhile, colors don't. There's no way red in the color chart can become green. There's no how you can do it will even turn black literally because red can easily go to black if you add blue to it. So there's no how you can turn a red flag into a green flag for whatever reason. But the reason why people still end up in traumas, end up in all kinds of abusive relationship and all of that is because when the first red flag showed up, they did not stop to address it, right? So when you go through these 5 things, when you sit down to to journal, like I'm going to teach you later on, you become self-aware. Like, okay, you come to see your worth. You come to see that you are somebody. You come to see that you have so much value to offer. All right, that's the way it works. Then you're not going to reflection, and then you come to base of change. So let me just move forward. Right, there'll be a meditation exercise that I'm going to put to us in the next few minutes. But before I go into that, um, I will just share 5 things, right, which is not actually even on this slide currently, but I intentionally did that so that we can make it a practical exercise, right? Now, there's something called, I'll call it, um, I'll call it how we process events or how events of our lives are processed, right? And if you can master this thing, you will definitely have great results. So I'm going to just read it out from here. It's something that really changed my own life, and I believe it's going to change yours as well. Can you still hear me? Am I still on? Can you still hear me? If you can. So yes, my screen seems to have frozen. That's why I'm saying that. Okay, just moving on again. I'll just share 5 things, right? I'll just share 5 things which I believe is going to help us. So for me, I'm just doing this because we have a very short and limited time. So there are 5 things. Number one, I would say is scenario. Just write it down in your notes as you're listening to me. Scenario, behavior, scenario, script, stories, your state, and your behavior. Number one, scenario. Number two, script. Number three, stories. Number four, state. And number five, behaviors. Now, whenever you're going through stuff, whenever we all go through stuff, there's something called scenario. For instance, right? You got a call from your boyfriend and he says that, hey, man, I'm no longer going to be in this relationship anymore. I just want to just get out of this. I don't want to be here anymore. I just want to be free. I don't want you anymore and all of that. So bye bye. Don't call me again. Block me on social media. And like, oh my God, are you serious? After 10 years of dating you, you promised to marry me? That's a scenario. And we all have scenarios every day. Maybe you were duped in a business deal or something like that. We all have scenarios in our lives. Scenarios. Some of them are not so good. Some of them are very good. So we have scenarios like that. Scenarios are there. Scenarios. That's a scenario. Like, wow, what just played out in my eyes? What did I just hear? So when things like that happen, or we call them events, when those things happen, the next thing that happens to us is that we now go into our scripts. They now see now the way the mind works is very fun. The way the mind works is this, right? We all have mental scripts. I'll call them templates through which we reason. For instance, now when you want to brush your teeth, there's a way you brush your teeth. You know, unknown to you, that is the way you brush that is your template, your way of brushing your teeth. You have become accustomed to that without even you knowing. Right? The same way too, we have mental scripts which we use to process how we deal with life issues. For instance, some people go through a heartbreak and they now begin to just go into, maybe go into drugs. They begin to just take alcohol. They begin to drink, smoke. They begin to do all kinds of things. It may feel like a reaction, but actually it's a script that is playing, and they're like, okay, since I don't have this love of my life anymore, and I'll just do what I like. That's a script already that tells you that this is how I should behave. And meanwhile, most people are unconscious about these scripts in their mind. And these scripts, they come from probably the way your upbringing, from what you have been exposed to, even from social media, and even from things that we see everywhere on movies, right? We have been conditioned consciously and also unconsciously to act in certain ways if certain things happen to us. Oh my God. I'll give an example of something now, right? There are two kinds of fear, right? I'm digressing a bit, but just follow me. There are two kinds of fear. We have the episodic fear and the imaginary fear. The episodic fear and the imaginary fear. Now, some time ago, okay, let me use that example. So if, for instance, you were trying to cross a road, some time ago, and you were almost hit by a vehicle, and it was a near death experience, and you almost died or something like that. The next time you want to cross the road, even if the car is far away, you will remember like, oh my God, I was almost hit by this thing. That becomes an imaginary fear. But meanwhile, the conditions are not actually there, but your mind still maintains that image and says, don't cross anyhow, you may just die. Meanwhile, the episode has changed, but the situation has, but your mind has not yet changed. So that becomes what is script in your head that whenever you want to cross, you may actually die. So whenever you even have a situation where there's no threat to your life, you will still remember, you will still play that script again. So I'm saying that's what happens to most people. So even if you don't even know how to react, what you have known about that situation, you will actually play that out for yourself. So, e.g., now you have been through an event. The next thing that plays out is the scripts in your mind. How do I process this particular thing? And this is where most people don't have the right mental ability to be able to deal with situations, right? So you go through that scenario in your mind. You are thinking in your mind, oh, how did I go through this? How will I deal with this situation? I'm very sad right now. Oh, I'm very hurt. I don't know what to do anymore. I'm finished. All these thoughts now become like stories. Let me call them stories. So from a scenario, you go to your script, then you go to your stories. Now let me just say this here, that everybody has a story playing in their head. Yes. If you check the mind of billionaires, there's a story in their mind. They're like, I know I can succeed at this particular thing. They have a story in their head. There are stories in their head. There are stories in their mind. And that's why, for instance, whenever you want to, in the US, right, every election year, you see that their presidents are always good with storytelling. They have stories. And that's how they tell you what's going on in their mind. They use stories of what happened when they were younger. Their father grew up in one Indian community, came to America. You see how they paint a story to your mind. And the same way too, there's a story playing in your head about relationships, about marriage, about finances, about your work, about your life. Stories that's built up over time. For instance, if you lost some money, you'll be like, oh my God, I'm a failure. I've lost money. But meanwhile, that's not actually true. It's a story in your head. You only lost something. You didn't become. You only lost something. But by the way you are thinking, you now become what you are thinking. So go from your story, from your scenarios to your scripts, then to your stories, right? What story are you telling yourself about where you are right now? And this is why therapy is very important, where you'll be able to unleash the stories on paper. So you feel like, oh, this is not who I am. Though I'm going through this, but this is not me. You'll be able to clarify how things are, how that what you are going through is not defining you. Rather, you define what you would become after what you have gone through has actually passed. They will now go into your states. Then lastly, your behavior. I'm saying these five things because this is what happens every time. When something happens to you, you immediately start to think about how to react to it. How do I respond to this? How do I respond to this? How do I respond to this? There are people that go into the wrong things because of the pain that they are feeling at that particular time, right? Because they don't know how to process the event properly. They can't sit down with themselves, and make a change that they're supposed to make. So I'm on this call with you today to help you to see that there's a better way to process your emotion. There's a better way to process your thoughts. There's a better way for you to deal with situations and be transformed by it. So I said that yes, you go through self-awareness, you go through reflection, you understand things, you make decisions, and you take responsibility. All right. So these are basically four things I will just share quickly, right? These are like four journaling techniques. There are so many of them, but I will just stick with these four, and I will share some other things afterwards. So list writing basically has to do with, for instance, you can just say, okay, you're being through something that is traumatic and all of that. You can just write and take your notes and just start writing without any number, right? Just write out the things that how you feel. Just keep on writing like that. Just keep on writing, keep on writing like that, how you feel about a particular thing, or 15 things that you have learned from this. How will I begin to change from this? Just list out your emotions. But we can just put fear, doubt, anxiety, worry. I feel afraid about the future now that I've lost this. Just begin to list out, just begin to express the emotions. This thing, journal therapy is not about how creative you are right now. You're painting a picture about the sky being blue or the sky being purple. No, it's you describing how the state of your heart is. In fact, if we were to be in a physical class, I would have just told you to just come out and just scribble a diagram on the board about how you feel about a particular thing. Just scribble whatever, just draw anything, just draw your heart in a way, because there's a part also of drawing when it comes to therapy. And just come and express your heart on the board. Just do it. Those things just unleash emotions. Just unleash all kinds of things out of you. You can, and it's amazing, right? So just begin to unleash all of those thoughts. And number two thing that I like so much is the letter to your future self. So just imagine that, like I was speaking to a person that is going through some addictions currently, and I was just trying to walk him through some of these things. I was like saying that, so I told him, I said, see, why don't you just write your testimony, as it were. Write your testimonial about how you got free from this addiction. I was like, really? I said, yes, because you're actually free, but you think you're not. Right? I said, write a letter to your future self as though you are 10 years from now. Just write it as though you have been free from what you are currently struggling with. And he was like, wow, thank you very much. Right? So you could just start by saying that, wow, today is 10th of October, 2025. And it's been 5 years since I went through this addiction of whatever you're going through. And thankfully, I got away because I had help from my coach, from my mentor. And it was difficult, but today I've become an inspiration to people that are going through this particular difficulty as well. All right? You just write a letter to your future self, just describing the ideal self that you want to become. All right? Describing the ideal self that you want to become. That's how it works. So you write a letter to your future self. And if you can do this today, and just do it and save it somewhere. And you can refer to it maybe the next 1 month or the next 2, but just put it down, pour out your heart, like go into your mind. Probably play some music in the background, some sounds in the background, which I will show you, right? And just begin to put those things out there. Begin to put those things out there. Begin to put those things out there and write them. And number three thing here is what I call gratitude journaling. Most people actually do this already, right? Most people do this. They try to just write maybe 4 or 5 things that they are thankful for every single day. I'm thankful for my mother, my father, my job, which is good. But me, I like to call it throwing a gratitude party. So I introduced this particular technique some years ago for my students, and it changed their lives rapidly. So what a gratitude party is, I always say that don't throw a pity party, throw a gratitude party. Don't throw a pity party for your life, throw a gratitude party. In other words, I tell them that, see, why don't you just list out 15 people, all right, that have for instance, that have done significant things in your life that you've not even had time to really thank them or do it properly, just sit down and go into your mind and just relive that experience and write it out and say, thank you, Ma, for when you paid my school fee when I was struggling through school, and so and so. Thank you, Mom, for helping to deal with this particular situation that I was facing in this particular. Like you go specific. One way that journaling works is when you are specific about what you are saying or what you are writing. Don't just do vague things. Just put one line and just stop. No, 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 no. It has to do with specificity. You have to be so specific about what you're trying to be grateful about. And the person as well has to know that you really mean what you're saying. And I got so many feedback that were like, wow, that when they began to do this practice, as it were, people were, as in, do that, people were so, they were so emotional, they were so, as in, it unleashed all kinds of goodness in their mind because they were like, wow, so I did this, or what I did meant this much to you. That's the word. So your journaling of gratitude now has to be to somebody else, that you actually write a note to somebody. You take your time and detail what the person did. It could be a very small thing, but make the person know that that thing made a very significant difference for you. So if you do some of these things that are here, your emotions will suddenly switch from negative to positive. That's how it happens. I'm telling you. So even if you are going through a trauma, going through a heartbreak, going through whatever, when you sit down to start journaling like this, all right, you'll begin to just experience a new wave of emotions. You begin to make connections in your mind that you've never done before. Number four thing here is, I call it dream journaling. That has to do with describing the ideal you, the dream about your business, the dream about your family, the dream about about where you want to be in the next 10, 15 years or whatever. Just sit down and begin to dream on paper. When I clocked 30 this last year October, I sat down here in my office and I was like, man, Toby, you have to sit down and do this. And for like maybe about 2 hours or so, I kept on writing about the dreams of my heart now that I've clocked 30. And it's still on my system here. And I'm working towards them. There are so many of them, all right? But I did that as in, it was like free writing. I was limitless in my mind as I was putting those dreams. I'm like, Toby, this can happen. And if your mind can conceive it, it means it is real. I've always said that a person's dream is imagination that has not yet taken place in time. Or imagination is something that has happened but has not yet physically manifested. So if you can dream and put it in writing, you can write the vision. It means that you can actually run with it eventually. So these are what I would call specific things that you can start doing right today to shift your emotions from negative to positive and to give you clarity about who you are, about what you can do, what you can change. All right. Then to really drive this home, let me just put this out there, right? Because we're talking about how to heal from trauma and heartbreaks and all of that. I want to just zero in on something. Whenever people go through difficult things like this, right, they react in the wrong way. For instance, instead of processing the pain to find a positive pathway out, they embrace the pain, all right, and they try to prove a point to people that despite how they have been hurt by people, they can still thrive. So people that come and say, my haters, don't worry, I'll come back to show you that I succeeded about this thing. In a way, it sounds good, but they are still hurting. And it's because of their hurt they are trying to prove to you that they will succeed in their craft. Okay, let me give an example. Someone said a story one time that the man was a carpenter, right? And he went to his office one day and he saw a very big snake that was wrapped around his saw. And this snake was a boa constrictor, and by nature, those snakes, they tend to squeeze their prey till they die, then they now swallow their prey. So this snake thought that this saw, very sharp saw, was a prey. So instead of it to let go of the prey, of the saw, it kept squeezing tighter because it thought that by squeezing tighter, the saw will become blunt. Get this point? The snake thought that by squeezing the saw tighter, it would get blunt and it would be okay. But meanwhile, the saw kept cutting and cutting and cutting until it died because that's crazy. So people hold on to the pain and they are tending to live life. They want to still go ahead and date the next person, marry, even get married, or it's the next business, into the next country, want to travel. Meanwhile, the trauma is still there, and they keep embracing it, and they keep claiming to be a strong man or to be a strong woman. Meanwhile, the pain is still there. This is why therapy is extremely important, because it helps you to be able to sit down and face your fears and face that situation till you can laugh at it. And lastly, on this particular thing, I will say this, that it's important never, or it's important to always speak from your scars and not from your wounds. If you go on social media today, you will see all kinds of people that are wounded, that are just sharing, they're just speaking from their wounds. Someone just come online and they are dragging their spouses, they're dragging their parents, dragging people that are older than them, just calling people names. I'm like, this is, yes, it's true, they are hurt, but instead of dealing with the hurt, right, they are consistently, shouting and screaming and making their wounds known. And the wound doesn't get healed by you sharing about the wound. Once you sit down to get healed, then you can now begin to say your stories from your scars. I heard a story from one of my coaches, and he was saying that there was another coach, very popular one time, right? Who was apparently helping people to overcome, trauma as well, to overcome issues of their life and all of that. And at the end of the day, do you know what happened? This person took her life. She was apparently helping people to overcome suicidal thoughts, but she herself ended up committing suicide. A coach, a renowned coach, and I can't call names here, right? We've heard of pastors, right, that have ended up, taking their own lives. Pastors that are preaching powerfully on Sunday, and this thing happens. This thing happens every other day. Yes, they are there, being strong for the people, for their families, for their parents, for their younger ones, for their children, but they are dying. They are not healed, right? As in, you're meant to be healed, and therapy helps you to get healed, takes you to where the situation is, and helps you to deal with it squarely. And this is why general therapy is very important. I've been coaching people on this for the past 2 years, and I've seen people that had bipolar disorder that I come on my course and I'm like, wow, does this help them? People that I've never forgiven their parents before, right? They came on my and they're like, Toby, thank you for helping. I've been able to forgive my parents, and people that have been raped before, they were able to come to a place of healing, and I say, thank you that I went through what you taught us in class, right? They came to a place of release, of ease in their hearts, because they took therapy extremely serious. So wherever you are in whatever scenario that you have gone through this year, or even in the past year that is still hurting, don't be like that thing that was wrapping around the sore, and that thing will continue to cut you until you let it go. Right? You are better off without the trauma or without the pain than you are with it. So rather than process the pain correctly and use the lesson, the wisdom to rise. Right? Use the wisdom, because now let me end with this, that pain is inevitable in life, but your healing is optional. Pain is inevitable, but healing is optional. In other words, healing is your responsibility, but pain, and you always go through stuff. People will probably cheat you at your office. People will say things to you that are nasty things. People will hurt you, because it's human. This world itself is full of all kinds of people, right? So you are definitely bound to go through some painful experiences in life. So it's inevitable, but your healing is possible, is your responsibility, and you must take it seriously. And that's why you must know how to process every of your life events correctly, right? Process. When, for instance, when Jesus Christ was being nailed to the cross, and he said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing." It doesn't make sense. That was a man that knows how to process his pain. Imagine them drilling nails through your hands, 6 inches, and like bang, 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 bang. And he kept saying that, "Father, forgive them." Right? That was crazy, but he understood it. And Christ was, it's an example that I can go into that for another 1 hour, because it's also profound. He understood how to process pain. That it's not about the person that is hurting you. It's about you and your response to that person, because you must always come out on top. right? Um, you must always come out on top. So let me just say this here. The last thing here is that um, you can journal either on paper, either with your physical book like this one that I have on my table here, right? Or you can use applications. For me, I use these two applications. That's Penzu and Day One. Penzu is a mobile app and it's also a web app. So you can open a profile there and it's free. Though they have some pro plans, but the free one can work for you basically. So it's on my phone, it's on my system. I have it everywhere. Where I have a lot of that are like my own secret journals that I just go and express when I'm moody, when I'm hurt, when I'm tired, when I'm feeling frustrated about life or whatever, or about whatever I'm going through. I just go there and just pour out my heart, and I always come out feeling better because of the fact that I go there and I'm authentic with myself. In fact, those things can even pass for prayer points, literally, because I go back and I'm like, wow, this was what you were going through 3 months ago, but today that has now become a testimony because it's amazing how I pour out my heart on in that place and I'm able to just come out with the clearer thoughts in my head. So you can use Penzu. Just go on Google and search for Penzu or on Play Store. Just go for Penzu or Day One. Day One is also a free app, but also has some pro plans as well. But the Miracle Morning app is not a free app. You have to pay about 2,000 naira thereabout to get access to it. But you can use any of these apps to take journals, to write out your thoughts. There's so many things that I could share about, so many other practical things I can share really, but there's no more time. So yeah, this is the last one I have here. Journaling helps you to change your focus, to gain clarity about your situation, to find direction more easily, and to relieve stress. This is very important. It helps you to relieve stress and to build more intentionality and gratitude into your daily life. You know, it's very key to be grateful. Right? On the first day of this year, I'd like to be every day you must ensure that you thank one person, at least one person, for what they did to you or for you today. And I've made sure that I've tried to do that from first of January, second of January. I find people that I won't. In fact, there was the day that we come back from church on the first day of the year, and the person that organized the bus for us to go to the church, I you know I I love the way the man did everything. I came back home and I typed a very lovely message to like, sir, thank you for how you organized the bus and for us to go to church and back and all of that. And now I was like, wow, this made me even more conscious about what I'm doing now. Because for me, that was very, very significant. I was like, wow, this person was able to help us to organize the bus, to go to church safely and come back very easily without any other. I text him very about 4 or 5 paragraphs. And I was telling him, thank you for how we organized everything and coordinated the entire team to just go and come back home. And it was so seamless. So gratitude helps you to just shift from being selfish to being other people focused. So you just leave your your cubicle of self pity and go into the place where you are grateful for life. So that's the way it works. There's so much more I could share. Really, I have courses, I have books, I have and one-on-one trainings as well too. If you'd like to be a part of it, but I'm great. I'm happy to have shared all of this today. I think I've done my time. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for connecting to this live stream. Thank you, Mrs. Napa. Thank you, Josiah team, for everything.
Yeah. So, I had my pen, right? And I've attended this course before, Oluwatobi. But I always know that
Oh,
there are
really?
many nuggets to share. Yes, I did the 2 day one. I've never done the 1 week. I
Oh,
think
okay.
I want to do the 1 week. So for those listening, we're going to put it as part of the video description where you can reach out and connect. Very insightful session. Uh, Let me say, like in Nigerian, you finished work. So I know I have a lot to say, but I don't want to detract from the questions that we have in the comment section. If you have any more questions, please put it in. We have Oluwatobi for the next 13 minutes. So we want to answer as many questions that appeared. Um, so where's our first question? I think our first question came from Jackson, if I'm correct. Is it showing on the screen? Okay, so there's one from Timothy Ojo, and it says, is it possible to harness heartbreaks to write good stories without sounding too emotional?
So what do you mean by sounding too emotional? That's the first question. Like, how do you mean sounding too emotional?
Well, I don't know what Timothy is thinking, but maybe a case of being able to portray a story that doesn't, you don't let your own emotions bleed through it. Maybe you've suffered heartbreak and you over index on the heartbreak as opposed to being able to tell a really good story.
Yeah, so the reason why it's a story is because there are emotions. Right. Yeah. It is. If you're writing a story that is so personal, you definitely have to put emotions into it. Right. The only thing there is, I would always say, is that ensure that you have already healed from what you are writing about, such that you will not now feel like, should I let this story out? Should I share this? Am I okay about sharing this issue? I don't think I should share. If you're feeling like that, that means you still have a lot of work to do on yourself. As in you still have a lot of healing to do so that you can be free to share a story. I hear from Oprah Winfrey how that she was raped at age 4, at age 9. She shares it so freely because wow, she has left that she doesn't see herself that way anymore. It's in her books. She says it on her show. She says as freely as possible. So if you are feeling like I don't feel like I should share this. I'm not okay. If you're still having that struggle, it means that you should not put that out until you're actually ready to do that. But yes, stories are meant to be emotional. In fact, I've read books that made me cry. I read books that made me cry. The person actually was that open and deep. I've read books that made me laugh or made me so sad. That's emotion. So your story is meant to be emotional. But of course, what is the content of the stories now? Yeah, you have to be concerned about. Are you okay with putting that out? If you're not okay about it, then you have to put it aside or wait till you're more matured or more able to be able to put that out. That's my answer to that.
Okay, thanks. I really like the flavor you put on it. More a case of making sure that you have healed
Yeah,
first.
that's
Now, yeah, I think that's really important because sometimes we think that the retelling of the story is where the healing is, but that's not where the therapy
mm,
comes from. I like what you were saying about being self aware and then reflecting and making sure the experience becomes insight. I thought that was a very powerful statement. So
yeah,
that kind of
that's it.
ties it. And then we have a question from Henry O from YouTube. And he says, if journal therapy is only the inking of memories, good and painful, what then is its contribution to the healing one hopes for from a hurtful
Yeah.
one?
Yes, so I didn't get to that place, right? I was do that here as well. There's something called, or they are what they call meditation exercises, right? So the first thing is to be able to, number one, go into the experience that you had. That's into the hurt that you had, right? Maybe you will now tell that why do I feel like this about the situation? What exactly happened? Why do I feel this way? Once you're able to answer the question about the feeling that you have and why you feel that way, either on paper or you're typing in there, you will see that. In fact, some people actually end up crying so much when they are putting these things out. But that's part of the process. So that's the first thing that you do. The second thing now is now the meditation aspect, where somebody like you are guided in meditation, right? You are guided such that you are able to now go into the experience, and with your imagination, you will change certain things till you have an empowering story to tell. Oh my God, how
Mm,
do I explain
okay.
this? So, for instance, and let me give an example. When I went through my own training back then, about 3 years ago, right? I still had that hurt from my past relationship. I was like, why did that girl leave me? Even though I was already dating somebody else and that became my wife eventually, I was still always like, why did she leave me that way? Now, the funny thing was that I asked out that back then, in person and all of that. Asked her out in person, you know, and she gave me a yes in person, but she broke up with me over the phone, just come and on WhatsApp, just like that. I was like,
Hey,
she could
oh
not
my
even
gosh.
honor me by saying, let's have a meeting physically, and I was even asking her that let's even meet, even though let's even meet physically somewhere, let's even talk, let's even share together. Just tell me, let me say my story too. She didn't care. She just like that. Like, oh my god. So for a long time, I was still doing my work. I was still doing my business and everything. But I was still always, I was doing everything I was doing, but I was still carrying him. I'm like, how would this girl break up with me like that? So in that class, I was just like, my coach now took us through a meditation in and told us by ourselves that we should rewrite the story. I will explain what
Mm.
happened. So in my mind, I saw her apologizing to me for breaking up with me the way she did. That she's very sorry. That she didn't mean it that way. That I was able to now, through my coach and all of that, go into her mind to see probably what she was also struggling with that she could not even tell me. I saw her. It's very, very crazy. I know it's crazy. I don't know how to say it. But I literally saw her apologizing to me, saying, Toby, I'm so sorry about this. I could have actually come to you, but I was probably going through ABC and D, but but I'm so sorry about it. Just find a way to forgive me. And I came out of that class, I was free. You see,
Wow.
the mind is where the work is. Even if you are
So
hurt
what?
by somebody always stole your money and the person is still posting in social media, your mind is your computer. You will change the
Yeah.
story in your head and you're like, okay, John stole my girlfriend because I did not have money. I forgive you, I release it from my heart. It's because you were not probably trained properly when you were younger. Because sometimes we are so deep in ourselves that we don't even understand that the other person's world is probably so much more chaotic than your own world. So you think that your what you experienced was the worst pain. Meanwhile, the person was probably going through a bigger pain, but could not know how to. They don't know how to say it or how to handle it and just pour it on you, and take it so heavy. See, every human being is a universe. We are all complicated. Let me use that word because see, we are gods. Imagine what you know. Now
Yeah.
we can't even know God fully, right? And we are made in His own image. So you can imagine how we are. So even we so sometimes we confuse ourselves as human beings. Well, it's hard to know who we are. So even yeah, so the pain that you are going through, right? The way to deal with it is to go into it. Jesus Christ went into hell. He went to hell, came out of the hell, and gave us the keys of life. He had to go into the place that the thing was. So you don't fear it. You will cry. You will probably even relieve the thing again, right? But the aim is so that you can get to freedom, and that's where meditation. See, the Bible says that as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. It says that meditate upon these things, give yourself wholly to them, and your profiting shall appear to all. So meditation is not just about in just think about one verse in the Bible. It's pictures, it's pictures, it's pictures, it's reliving videos in your head. That's meditation. As in you are rewriting your script, you are editing your mind, you are editing an event in your mind. That's what that's how you are transformed.
Yeah. So
That's
what you
that's
achieve
how you are transformed. Transformation is
is
editing a previous event.
closure.
So you get it. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm saying
You
too much.
achieve closure. No, no, no. It's so interesting. There's so many points you are saying. And just for the people that are still on, know that this is going to be available on demand on our Facebook page and on our YouTube page. So you can go back because even in this, your answer, you have said so many things in trying to achieve closure, being intentional about your mental and emotional
Yeah.
healing. Not just expecting it. That's all I'm hearing is that you took matters into your own hands. And I know how happy you are with your wife, and I see the joy, and I feel it's because there was a lot of self-awareness from past hurts. That's how I feel. That made
Yeah.
you now have such a great foundation in your new relationship. So you're not carrying
Mm,
baggage into your new relationship.
yeah.
So just before we end, we have time for
Oh,
one last question from Jeff
all
from
right.
YouTube. And the question is, how easy is it to be self aware or to journal when you are in the middle of a difficult scenario like abuse, for example?
All right. Thank you for that question, JF Connect. Yes. So it's very difficult, right? Because you are still going through the situation. Say probably you are. Um, so some years back, we had the conference for teenagers, and somebody in the audience, she asked the question. She could not even say it physically. She just had to write it on the note, and she said that she's currently being abused by, I think, her father. and she can't tell anybody, right? It was so, I mean, it was so serious. And she was like saying that, it's been on for a while, she doesn't know how to deal with it and all of that. How can we help her? And she didn't put her name or her number, but she was in the audience, so it was so difficult. So we have to just advise, right? There is no way that we could have helped her because she was not willing to come out to us, say, I'm the one, or let's go and arrest her, my daddy, or let's go and arrest the man or something. But she wanted some level of help, right? The only thing we could say to her was that she had to confide in somebody else physically. Confide in somebody, maybe the pastor in the church, maybe a teacher in the school, maybe a principal, or maybe even we, but she didn't come out to me or come out to my team. But uh, so when you're going through when you're still in the middle of that thing, sometimes it's hard to even want to reach out for a solution because you still feel so tied up into that. You still feel like, man, I'm dying, I'm decaying, or whatever. You feel the pressure of what you are going through. All right. But there's something that we all have as human beings. It's called a will. All right. It gets to a point, a breaking point. Everybody has a breaking point. And that's why some people end up going to gang. And some people they do the wrong thing when they want to break out. She might actually kill that man one day if she's so angry. Like, over the past 1 year, you've been raping me. Just take and just stab him. These things happen every day. Happens every day, right? The person just feels like, this man has been raping me for the past 1 year. I'm tired. She just reacts in that moment. A build up of emotions over the past 1 year now makes her to react at that point. A breaking point. So, but that's why even while you are still in the trauma or in the situation, you have to muster the willpower to want to solve the issue. Because if you allow it to linger so much, you may end up taking a very drastic action that now destroys you or the persons that are involved in that thing. So yes, you have to be self-aware of what your own role is or what your role can be in your own solution. Because of course we can't e.g. now, if someone is being abused sexually at home or whatever the person is, it is never the fault of the person being raped or something. It's always the rapist because the man doesn't, or the woman, whatever the person is, doesn't have sense or also needs help. Let me put it, that person also needs help. Because yeah, the person needs help. So once you know that even the person himself needs help, you can't rely on the person to stop what he's doing before you now make a change. You have to, in that situation, discover your own solutions. Reach out to somebody, talk to somebody, right? You have to reach out, you have to leverage somebody else's help, someone that can listen to you, understand you, not judge you, not blame you, not curse you, not say that it's your fault that you are wearing the wrong clothes in the house. That's why the man is raping you. No, no, no. Someone that can see you as a person and want to help you from the heart out. So it's not easy. It's never easy to at all for any of all these things. But you have to be willing to seek for help. Talk to somebody. But start by writing, number one. See what you can do. See how you are feeling. And make sure that you are able to recognize your personal power. Yes, that's the word. Recognize your personal power to make the change. And that's what journaling does to you. You see that even though you are a victim, but you're actually a victor. Yes, that's what happens. You become aware of your personal power. That yes, I may have been raped for the past 3 years, but I am not a victim of this. Yes, you will come to that point of personal power, and that's why you have to be journal and come to self-awareness. Then you reflect, then you understand why it happened to you and why that person may have also gone through that particular thing as well. Why is the person doing like this? Maybe the man has been deprived by his wife, or he's not mentally stable. As you will also see the person as a victim as well. All right. Okay. Anyway, let me just stop there. Just do it. Right. Find somebody
Yes.
and
But thank you so
express it.
much.
Yeah.
Yes, for giving people that may be going through trauma or have had very challenging times the hope that you have personal power. And then the steps from self awareness all the way to the tips for journaling. We really appreciate it.
Thank you,
Mr.
Ma.
Oluwatobi, fantastic session as always, very insightful. Again,
Thank you,
it's going
Ma.
to be on demand on our Facebook page and our YouTube page, and Luatobi's details are going to be there, so you can reach out to him directly. I've been in the 2-day workshop. It's amazing. You can also attend the 1 week. All the information will be there. Please don't forget to follow us on our social media handles at My Shazaya on all platforms. And as I said, we always love to engage in the DMs. It all goes down in the DMs. So reach out to us. And if you want more information about this session or about Oluwatobi's ministry, his business, and this great work he's doing, you can also DM us and we'll direct you to him. So, guys, we're done. Thank you for hanging out with us.
Thank you,
And we will
Ma.
see you next time for another exciting session.
Thank
Oluwatobi,
you,
you know how I
Shazaya
feel
Tim.
about you. Thank you
Grateful.
so much. Bye,
Yeah.
everyone.
Bye bye.